Hi, I'm Sandi Genovese, and we're going to look today at appreciating your kids' teachers. You know, as a former teacher myself, I really am a believer in showing that appreciation, and it doesn't have to be a really big gesture. Even the smallest thing can just really help them feel appreciated. So, we're going to look at creating something fun. This is a glass, a drinking glass, a mug that they can use for hot or for cold drinks, but you can embellish it with this wrapper that just slides up, and by cutting it out of foam, you've created something that can also be, if they have something hot like coffee in there, it can help protect their hands. The straw is the perfect place to attach a little banner, in this case one that just says thank you, thank you, thank you over and over. And then because it's a receptacle, you can use it to hold even more things if you want. You can put in a gift card, let's say to Starbucks or a little a coffee shop that is in your area. I chose to fill it with pencils. So what I did, you can see this one has a heart, this one has a trophy. What I did is I went to the dollar store in order to get the pencils to fill that, so that wouldn't be an expensive part. Then to go with it, I have a post-it notepad, and I've just packaged it with a little fun belly band that wraps around it, and we'll see how to make that as well. First, you want to start with the glass itself. So I went and I found these at Hobby Lobby. They have them in lots of places. They have these in the dollar store too. They come in different heights though. Take a pencil with you to make sure if you're going to fill yours with pencils, because that is such an easy, quick thing to do. I have 3 dozen pencils in here for a total of $3 worth of pencils. Pretty easy. So these I found at Hobby Lobby, and I think they were at the half off sale. Initially they were $9.99 or basically $10, and I think it was 50% off, so basically $5 for the little glass and then $3 for the pencils inside. And then if you want to add more, as I said, you can add a gift card or something else inside. So basically you're going to fill it with pencils, and then as I mentioned, 3 dozen worth for $3 at the dollar store. And what I really like, they even came already sharpened. How cool is that? Then to decorate it, what I've done is I've used foam because I wanted it to be a cup sleeve that would protect both cold and hot drinks, rather than, if you want it to just be a wrapper that you decorate as a way of saying thanks, it can be out of paper or chipboard or poster board. If you want it to be long lasting, it can be something out of foam. So here you can see the foam, and I've cut hearts to decorate one. I've cut a trophy that I'm going to place a heart onto. The shape of the wrapper itself, here it is, and all you have to do, I'll place it on the website so you can just print it out and then use that as a pattern in order to cut the foam. And the foam has to wrap around, and it needs to wrap in such a way that when it overlaps, the top just meets. So you can slide it up or down so that it hits that spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my glue dots on this surface and this surface so that when I close it up, I have really strong adhesive both places. So on this surface first, I'll put, and I just happen to have these small glue dots. Really, I think even larger might be better, but they all will work. So I'm going to put, I think maybe I'll do 3. Normally, it's not a bad idea to measure how far up you're going to go with these dots. So, and by that, let me show you what I mean. As I wrap this around, how much this overlaps is how high up you want those dots to go. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put dots on the inside now of this one so that all the little edges, when I wrap around the cup, there are no loose edges that are kind of flapping in the breeze. I want everything stuck down nicely. So I think I'll do 3. Glue dots are easy enough. Once I place this on the cup or the glass, if I need to add 1 or 2 more, I can. So I am going to peel the backing off of these, and can see as I wrap this. I'm going to peel the backing off of these. And I just want to position it so that, I might have to lay this down to be able to really see what I'm doing here, so that I overlap the edges and the top meets. So when it's in this position like so, I'm going to just lay this down and press. So you can see I didn't do my glue dots all the way to the top. I could have gone right to here, which is about what I did. And then I like to leave that set, you know, so that because the foam, I don't know what it is about the foam. I think maybe it might be made with oil, and that makes it not want to stick. That's why you need an aggressive adhesive. But sometimes I'll just leave this sitting like this overnight to let that really set up. Then you want to look at adding the decoration. Now, what I've done is I've added a trophy, and I've added a couple of other details to it. So in order to have this heart that's going to stick onto the trophy, I'm going to take a glue dot and place it onto the heart, and then I'll peel the backing off, and I'll use my tweezers, which will keep my fingers out of the way, in order to position this onto the trophy. And then to show that it's number one, I just went back with a sticker to apply right over the top. You could also just use a Sharpie to write the number one. If you're going to write it, I would suggest doing it before you stick it on, so that if you don't like it, you can always redo it. Once you have this decorated, then you're going to turn it over, and you're going to want to do the same thing that we did, only this time we're attaching it to the trophy, the glue dots, instead of to the belly band or the cup wrapper. Now, I only happen to have pulled out a few. I'm going to show you what I've done here. Normally, I would put my glue dots all the way up here and all the way around these edges. I would want all that to have adhesive. But for me to show you how this works, this will be enough. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the backing. Remember, you're going to put more than that. And then go ahead, and I like to find this cup has the word cheers on it, and I want that to show at the back. So I am going to twist this, slide it down, twist it until it's way in the back. It doesn't really matter because I do wish her cheer, but I'm going to slide it up so that when I decorate it, when I'm directly across from the back is where I'm going to place the trophy. So now I'm going to come back in. Remember, you're going to place more adhesive dots than I have, just so you have better adhesion all the way to the edges. But it goes together really pretty quickly and pretty easily. Now, I kind of think the crowning glory is the little flag. Let me bring this over and show you the little flag that sits on the top. And if you look, you can see that I've just handwritten with a white pen, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I've repeated it over and over. All I did was I started with a strip of paper that's about 3/4 of an inch, and I'm going to fold it so that I can cut both ends and they'll match. And I'm going to just cut a little V notch from both ends so that I end up with a nice edge. I would take my white pen, and I won't take the time to do the whole thing, but basically you're just going to start with, in this case I did thank you, so I'm writing thank, and then under that you, and then thank you. Maybe I will keep going. Okay, so it goes together pretty quickly, and now I'm going to put adhesive on. I want to make sure that I have at least half. I think I went a little too far. Don't need quite that, unless you want it to stay stuck. it's removable, so it's really not critical. And then you're going to come around and drape this so that the two sides will meet up, and that feels upside down. So I'm going to go this way, trying to look at the word thank you and make sure that it's reading right side up. So here you got thank you, and I'm going to just bring these together until it's nice and tight against, and you can see how you have a fun little flag. Open it up, fill it with pencil, and you're good to go. Now for the Post-it notepad, let me bring that over and show you that as well. What I did, I'm going to just slide this off, and I'll use this as a guide to show you exactly what I did to make mine. I took a piece of patterned paper. This is a 3-inch size block, so my width is 3 inches. The length needs to be long enough that when I pull this up and wrap it, the two sides, when I pull it tight, they're going to just meet. But before I do that, I want to cut out this triangle edge. And before I cut the edge out, I'm going to add another sheet. I'm going to add red right over the top. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this over. There's one side of this paper that's more textured than the other. And since I'm going to go back and cut out the triangle on the end of this, I think it's easiest to just cut it, the red and the pink at the same time. So I'm going to lay this down until it looks like I'm in the middle. And using the dots really does help. I can see that when I'm like just kind of right in the middle of those dots, and then I'm going to trim off the excess, and I'm going to leave a tiny little bit, because sometimes when you have a piece of paper on top of another paper, when you fold it, the one on top stretches a little, and it may just give me that extra edge. Then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim off one tip. Normally what I would do then is lay this back down here and use this, flip it over, use this as a guide so that I can see how to mark the other side. And I'll go ahead and I'll trim that. Do the same thing on this end, just matching the other side. Usually what I do is go like this, and then this gives me the pencil marks that I need for the second edge. And I'm going to use an 1/8 inch hole punch to punch the hole where I'm going to lace the ribbon through. And if you want this to be in exactly the same spot, you can use this as a guide to mark when it's lined up. So I'll mark and punch my second hole. So now it's just a question of laying this down and wrapping this. And if I want it to be, now you could measure. Measuring is not really a bad idea, but I'm going to eyeball this, and when I feel like I have, you can see I need to go a little bit more this way. When I feel like it's pretty close to the middle, you can see that this edge is still a little bit more. Let's see how this works. So I'm going to bring this edge up and make a fold. And do the same thing with this edge. Use this to mark that first fold line. Bring this in and fold it. You can see that that red wants to move just a little. And then I'm going to double check and make sure that I have both of those folds correctly. So now it's a question of bringing in and folding the final time. So I'm going to fold that, I'm going to fold this, And at this point, it's a question of taking the ribbon and sliding it through. You want to do both ends. This ribbon is way too long, but I'll go ahead and put it through and I'll trim it after. It's easiest to start with it longer because it's much easier to tie a bow when it's a nice long piece. And then I would also add in, I'm not going to stop to do it now, but you can see that I've written with a white pin, I've written thank you. So I would thread that onto the ribbon. Just have to pretend like I've already written thank you, or whatever message you want for your kids' teachers. And then bring this around and tie it. This is where you need your kids to come help you. With their finger they can hold that, but if you don't have that, let's see if I can do this. I like to leave it, you can tie a knot, but then if they want to untie it, they kind of have to ruin it. So you want to see if you can get it tied in a nice knot, and then go ahead and trim off the excess. Hopefully your scissors are going to do a better job of cutting than mine did. You can see how that works. And of course, like I said, I haven't written on the tag yet, but let me slide this off and I'll slide back on the one that has my handwritten message. You can see how quickly and easily that goes together. You know, as a former teacher, I really am a big believer in showing a lot of appreciation with a fun little gift.